All right. Hello. We're all back. Welcome back to Actual Play. Girl by Moonlight, Earth Unmade. Sorry for the technical hiccup, but the internets have returned, and therefore
my shitty Canadian internet.
I wasn't gonna bag on Canadian internet, but you know.
Oh yeah, hey, just run the cables over the igloo and into the fucking outhouse there, and it'll be all right. So when we left off, or at least when my internet died,
which is when everything stopped, of course.
I kept talking for a good minute and a half into nothing. Being like, yeah, so this is how gather info is going to work. So, Andy, you're gathering information. You're using your analyze action. So for that, we're not going to worry about position because nothing immediately terrible is going to happen to you because you are observing this thing.
Great.
So just put it in as controlled, I guess.
Okay.
And do you have anything that's going to change your effect level for looking at stuff?
You know, I don't feel like I do in the minute. No, I don't have anything.
Okay.
That's gonna change that. So
that's fine. You're just gonna have standard effect, which I think in this case means that you can ask me 2 questions if you succeed.
Great.
And, that you will get like you'll get like a standard depth of information.
Right. Nothing.
Yeah. I don't mean to put you in a more dangerous position, Andy, but I'm wondering if this should be treated as a fortune roll, because even though this is gathering information, it's not gathering information without. Is the disposition of this Leviathan such that like you can like check it out with relative impunity, or is it going to take? Might it take a pause as an opportunity to act? That's why I wonder if this would be an action roll rather than a fortune roll, and I think it's all just dependent on like.
To keep in line with Andy's initial description as well, there was that talk of like I'm like kind of dodging around it and maneuvering. Maybe this is more active, and maybe this is more like you're fencing with it a little bit and trying to find an opening by way of that.
Like juking around and seeing. Yeah. Oh, I could see that.
So yeah, if you want to go down that road, thanks, Sean.
Sorry, I mean, so yeah, if it's any consolation, I'm a jerk to myself too.
No, you have my buy-in. Nothing is wrong.
Okay. So we'll call it risky standard in that case. There is a chance of things going wrong here.
So then, that being the case, okay. So great, it's risky, and it's standard, and I'm still doing analyze at this juncture. Like we haven't magically gone somewhere else when you started talking about a fortune roll.
Nope.
Great.
I think right before you got cut off, Andrew, you were talking about pushing for an extra die.
Right.
You have the stress.
Yeah.
So I burn the stress for that. So that's a bonus die. And then are there any other decisions at this juncture that I need to make?
What is the hangman's virtue?
The virtue for the hangman is wise. So yeah, fair enough. I think y'all are you're playing to type really well. So it's like, yeah, you're always getting these helping dice, but that's fine.
Yeah.
You need your engines to be able to fight these things because otherwise they're going to murderize you. So
need to work in concert.
So yeah, go for it. I think it's totally fair for the hangman to help you out. It doesn't want to just get in there and wrestle
flail
the way the chariot might. If you were trying to do this in the chariot, then it'd be like, come on.
Right. But that's not a thing.
Just punch the thing.
And so playing up to the hangman's wise is worth a bonus die. And then when you
it is worth
is. And so then when you play to an engine's, what is it called? Is it their impulse? In this case, for the hangman, it's wounded. What is the boon there? I don't recall.
So, it won't tick your transcendence.
Great.
So you won't lose one of your 4 actions, and you will also mark experience when you play into or take dark bargains based on
the wounded. Great.
But I don't think I want to lean into wounded for this.
No, I don't think that is what is coming out of what is being imagined here. Great. 2 bonus dice. Let's see what terrible, wonderful things can happen.
Right. Well, and we theoretically could give you more.
Too late.
You don't need them.
Okay, so
I always need help.
So you also crit. And I want to point out that there was a bit of a procedural gaffe here where you failed to talk shit first.
I apologize. Except I don't, because I don't want to. Can't make me. Well, that's not true. I'm down.
Okay, cool. So this means I'm gonna so this will earn you got 2 questions with a follow-up question, and I'm gonna I'm gonna reveal more than I would have otherwise. We're gonna just lay bare what is going on.
Great.
Basically like complete information.
That's exciting. Oh golly. All right, and so this is go ahead.
Just for context for the audience, like each character playbook will have a different set of gather info questions to show that they all have different ways of, engaging with the world and with how they look out for each other and the kinds of things that they prioritize getting information about. So you have like a certain band of stuff that you can inquire about as the stranger or as the guardian or as the time traveler.
It's quite great.
And so you're asking questions about this Leviathan thing that you're engaging with. It is to provide a quick bit of context to help you make informed questions here. It is a huge cat-like thing with a kind of humanoid face on this big round head, but it has these giant unblinking orb-like eyes. This one is basically is inside of a ball of fire at all times. It is just constantly surrounded by a big orb of fire, and appears to it's walking around on the ground and is evaporating all the water around it. So there's this constant roil of steam around it, similar to what was going on with the chariot. So the current battlefield is really misty and foggy, which I think is kind of helping the Hangman when you're piloting it, because it
absolutely
misty, serpentine, fleshy thing.
That is what Ipsos is definitely all about, if not explicitly the Hangman, very much. So great. And that's all being said. 2. I missed the number of questions.
2 questions with a follow-up question afterwards.
Great. Awesome. So commit to 2, which I suppose one of them should be, where can I get an edge? Since I want this critter to go. And then oh, there's so many good questions. And as ever, I think I want to ask, what do I see here despite an effort to conceal it?
Great. So I'll answer your second question first, and it will
lead
to an answer for the first one. So
wonderful.
As Signy, piloting the magician, had grabbed the other cat thing, mashed its face into the obelisks. The one that you're wrestling with turned immediately as soon as that contact was made with the thing, and you get the sense that and it was clear that it felt the pain of the other one. And so its head spun and looked. It suggests to you that maybe they cannot separate very far, or that there is something to do with how they are connected that you might exploit in terms of severing that connection or leveraging it to, if you had one at your mercy, you could torture it to make the other submit or whatever, whatever horrifying thing you want to do to exploit that. But that they are connected. They are a bonded pair.
Okay.
I almost feel bad for them right now.
Maybe the real monsters are you guys. Also, maybe Sean is muted.
Oh.
I was typing, so I wanted to meet myself, but thank you for pointing out, because they're kind of like us, right? They don't want to be separated from each other, and yeah.
That's sad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but we certainly have the means to separate them. There's a giant barrier between them.
And feel free to ask me a follow-up question, Andy.
Oh my gosh. The question I always want to ask, which isn't pertinent in this scenario, is who here is isolated or alone? But that's only because it's an important question to think about always. That's not the thing. It's just always the question that's interesting and I love.
Everyone has isolated themselves.
Yeah, every time.
There's like everyone split up and is doing their own thing. The only people who aren't, I guess, are you and Prophet, because the two of you are actually like connected and working together. But the barrier is having an adverse effect on these cat things and their connection. There's like,
okay,
I think maybe there's a parallelism drawn between like
the radio,
your radios and these things and their connection. And I mean, it's a great effect, so I have to like hand you stuff for free here. So let me just be more thorough in my answering. And that maybe there aren't really two cats. Maybe there is one, and this is some weird like projection or reflection. There's some interplay between like this Leviathan, which I will start referring to singularly, and the barrier. There's an interaction there. And so it is causing this one inside, like it being wreathed in fire is not because it produces fire. It is a reaction to being inside the barrier.
It's on fire.
And like, yeah, there's some weird stuff going on with these two halves of the same thing being like reflections across the barrier or something.
Right.
It's like some weird science stuff.
Right. It's amazing. And Ipsos wants to be friends with the cat forever.
Yeah.
How does this work?
This combined entity is some kind of weird, like it's astrally projecting itself into the barrier or something. Because there's no way to here.
Right. Yeah, it is in fact not inside the barrier, except that it kind of is, right? Yes. Like, despite the fact that it is, it isn't. That delightful.
That explains how it got past our wards. Yep.
Yeah, right. Because we're like, did it come up from underneath? That still doesn't make sense. They're supposed to go all around. Yeah.
Orbital drop.
Yeah, there's like a whole team of scientists back at HQ who are like, how the hell did this happen? And they're trying to like immediately like figure this out, and they're never going to figure it out because it just didn't happen. Anyways, there's your answer.
That's delightful. And oh my gosh, I guess the answers very quietly, like over the comms, Ipsos will be like, separate them, they're the same. Like just like in a
some weird quantum nonsense.
Quantum nonsense is my freaking cup of tea. That is exactly what I want. They are the same. They are two things from different strands of time. They are projected through. Yeah, exactly.
Great.
We should definitely talk about astrophysics at some point, because I was just listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about it, and it is so fascinating to like imagine what dark matter and dark energy are doing, and like all the things that they possibly could be. Yeah, I retroactively wanted Prophet to be an astrophysicist only because of listening to him, and I was just like, no, this is too fanboy, but it's so cool. Anyway.
So Abbott, separating them is fine and good, but you got anything practical for us?
Yeah, is Reyna like rushing the chariot back into the action, as it were? After
I think I'm about to, once I get some sort of insight from my wise piloting friend.
I think Ipsos is vaguely irritated, right? And it's like, that is practical. They're the same. Separate them. Just different order of sentences.
Let me repeat the same thing to you that I said, only louder.
And what else does that look like at this juncture? Like,
I'm trying to imagine. I think unfortunately Reina's idea of separation is very mundane, right?
It's like drag them apart, right?
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing in terms of like the answers provided, there is nothing that strikes Ipsos as being like irrelevant or different about like physically separating them or like erecting a giant mirror in between them or like any strategy you
Mhm.
probably
Right.
going to accomplish the same.
Actually, I think I do have a plan.
Planning.
Prophet, you're piloting the magician, is that correct?
I'm probably, yep, she's probably the magician. And I think she's currently still holding this thing like against it. Like she's
it's like wrestling against you and trying not to get its face like belt sandered into nothing.
I
So
imagine.
Go ahead.
Oh, I imagine their faces are like dishes, like really flat
it's
and
like a big
smooth
flat
and like
plate thing.
yeah. And I keep cringing at the idea
Yeah.
of them cracking.
Although like it's no
Chip.
longer a circle, it's now like a D shape.
It's chipped.
Yeah, she's chipping it, and I
Essentially.
think with like 4 hands she's holding it, with like 2 other hands she's like punching it, like to try and like keep it from gripping. She's very violently approaching this solution because that's what she knows, and that's
Yeah.
This is a delightful new side of your character that I love seeing. The part where you just murder things.
Prophet, would you be willing to try and erect some sort of mystical barrier between the two of them, like reinforce the words, so to speak, so that the transmission gets even worse?
I think like I'm gonna elect to hear like bits of that and say, like there's a little bit of like radio interference, like strengthen the barrier.
Yes.
And
Push them together.
yeah, I think that it's choppy. There's some confusion back and forth, but not so much that Prophet doesn't get it. And then it's like, how? Well, let me back that up. Do we know how this barrier works? Like you described it as.
It is profoundly mysterious.
It's profoundly mysterious. Okay.
You maybe, if anyone, could.
Okay.
I was about to say.
So I have. Okay. So my special armor. I want to talk about this for a second. I don't want to like be abusive in the way I play my character, but my special armor, which I haven't used yet, is that I saw it coming. I have special armor to protect against surprise or misfortune, and I can spend it to be in 2 places at once, or perform some feat of time manipulation.
Yeah, I feel like maybe there's like a kinship to that magic and what.
Right. So can I use that saw it coming ability to somehow be in both places and pushing them apart or separating them or like kind of blur in and out of existence?
I like that this suits our fiction too, because there was the other timeline that you pulled Reina out of where you were inside the barrier.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
so I want to revert back to that timeline for a second. In order to try and I think, in fact, if this, instead of it being like a physical, like muscling them away from each other, Strash, the way you described the magician in the past was like when it stands still, it looks like it has like this black cloak that like it's sort of maybe illusion. We don't really know, but it like darkens everything between it. So I think I think it's reasonable to say like
spin it all the way around.
Yeah, and then like I'm in 2 places at once, and I like create this black barrier between on both sides of both sides of the shield that like strengthen it, or separate them further.
Right. So you're using, it's like there are 2 of you acting as like buttresses. To this magical field or whatever. Great.
I think this is cool.
Could possibly go wrong.
Is this what you had in mind, Strash? Does this sound?
Yes, this is perfect. I do not know, so I have to ask this question. Is there still a spend a stress to assist someone mechanic?
Yes. Yeah, you can still help in the normal way. So yeah,
I will do exactly that.
Okay.
If you're doing it that way, you just need to describe to me what you're actually doing to help. Links like help without helping, if that makes sense, right? To have it without the fiction behind it.
I think what I would like to do to assist you is actually, because I was the chief primary pilot of the magician, is I know the magician's like tricks and things like that, and I can maybe talk you through the appropriate bind. You're like, erect a ward. I'm like, yes, like the cloak. Like Sean Nittner had this awesome cloak idea, but in the TV show that we're playing
It's
through,
actually Raina's idea.
It's Raina's idea because Raina knows how to pilot. That's perfect.
I think that's excellent.
So I think the thing that is unexpected though is that we see Raina like, well, she's gonna try. Sorry, not Raina. Prophet. She tries like, once she feels like it's kind of unstable, like to push it away and then like erect the cloak, and we just expect the cloak to appear on one side of the barrier, but we see it unfolding on both sides,
echoes,
as though the magician is facing itself, and like
yeah, it's like this invisible barrier is suddenly a mirror or a body of
perfectly right. I think it looks like it's a mirror because she's actually on both sides.
But she's actually on both sides. Yeah.
So I've spent everything this game. This is great. I'm one stress away from eclipsing. I spent my special armor. I got my harm. This is good.
So, I'm in sound stress too, by the way. But let's keep rolling.
This is good.
Does this mirroring effect only reflect Prophet and then the cat, or is it all three of the engines that we see? And like, how far does that extend? Is it the team? Like, is that useful or interesting, or is it primarily Prophet and this cowl of darkness that you're enveloping?
I want to tie it back to the earlier thing. On the one side, we all see on the camera angle, when it comes down on the one side, we all see the future. The reflection is the future, and on the one side we see the future where they're sorry, I'm being so like fidgety with time, but I want to kind of like keep as much continuity as I can. On the one side we see the reality that we're seeing right now. On the other side we see the reality where Raina drowned.
Great.
Where, there's like one where there's just like a little bit of the chariot sticking up over the water.
Yeah, right. We don't necessarily know that Raina drowned, but it's an implication the chariot has
like,
there's this like that timeline is still sort of fuzzily existing a little bit. It hasn't been completely eliminated yet. Like we still have a little memory of that.
Cool.
And
great.
So it's all, but to answer your question, yes, it's all of us. It's everybody.
So let's
fantastic.
Talk about your position in effect here. So you're messing around with this thing that you don't really understand. That is this like monolithic ancient magical barrier that is powerful beyond your understanding.
Seems very safe to me.
So like I'm gonna say desperate.
Yeah, naturally.
I would say limited, but there are two of you. So I feel like that bumps your scale up, and you can have standard effect to actually do this thing.
We're both working on it.
And
I'm gonna argue that there's four of us. I'm reflecting. Like on the outside, there is like also a Raina with me helping on the other side too.
This is definitely clever, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're being very clever.
Yeah.
And you're getting help, so that's
2
dice there.
Does Abbott's get information gathering? Do you consider that a setup action that would improve our position or effect, or is that just us learning and then we're acting on it? It's probably the latter.
I think it like gives you this other avenue to fight like indirectly instead of needing to just like punch the cat until it stops moving.
Right.
And that this is what I will give you is that rather than trying to fight them as two separate things, you're fighting them as one holistic thing, which is going to change, which is going to make you like essentially doing twice as much.
Because we're effectively putting ticks on both clocks.
The denominator is half.
Working both of them down. Yeah. So that's 2 helping dice. You're in desperate standard.
Got another spare link for Prophet.
Can you have more than a helping die from your engine and a helping die from another person? Can there be
Is
more?
there a limit on helping normally in Blades?
Normally in
Blades,
yeah.
Only one person.
Normally just one.
I know that. So I think
we're good. We're full up.
I think we're full up. Yeah. Although no, sorry, you're spending a link to do it. You're not really helping. I've been kind of toying with whether or not I want to be as restrictive with this. I'm not entirely sure.
I mean, dice pool management is certainly something that's worth considering. If you can regularly get like 4 dice relative, well, we're all spending resources to do it. If you can,
And that's the thing. It's not
It
something
is.
you always have.
We're really die poor right now, but depending on XP and time passage, especially because in Transcendence Stage you can have 3 or 4 dice. Eventually,
Yeah,
the stack becomes a little out there.
exactly. Like right now, we feel like we're starved, but yeah. So I think we'll just play it. You can have the two
Agreed.
dice. I need to redescribe. I need to reword the engine thing, so I'll make that adjustment. It's a good little note for me. But anyways, please carry on. You have 2 bonus dice.
cool. I think I am confessing. I could be wrong. I'm looking at the actions. When you confess, you expose the inner world of your thoughts and feelings with another. You might reveal something that was left by anonymous gifts at your doorstep. You might admit to a friend that they were once a servant of darkness. I mean, I think I'm showing to everybody like what happened, and I'm also showing them this dark reflection. I might say express, but express is specifically talking, and this is not a talking action.
I like confess here because this is like it is a revelatory moment. You're also like showing this thing that you can do, like I mean, other people are going to take notice of this shit you're doing and be like, oh, so you never told us you could do this. Like, what else can you do?
Yeah.
It's going to open that question. So generally with confess, there's a bit of this idea of like giving up a little too much.
There's a danger.
Exposure and vulnerability.
That you are vulnerable.
Well, and I mean, just to get real obvious and physical about it, if I'm literally doing this action, I'm not defending myself in any way. Like,
yes, I can imagine the consequences.
They could just get punchy if they want to. I mean, it's not. All right. So I'm rolling. Do I have any? I do have something to confess. Okay, cool. I was looking at the action list. And, okay, so I'm rolling my confess, desperate, standard with 2 helping dice.
Yes.
Let's see if we can keep this crit train rolling.
Y'all are succeeding a lot right now.
Don't say that.
Like,
no.
2 crits in the last 4 rolls, and they're all successes.
Well, don't worry, because I will resolve that for you just fine. With
this is what I wanted to see. This is gonna
go
a
3
wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean, right.
So it gets really weird for everyone looking at it. There's like this incredibly confusing moment where like the cat things are reflected in the barrier suddenly. Like initially it was just y'all. It was just the like engines that you could see, and then like kind of materializing out of the like black murky shadow of the cloak on the thing. There are 4 of them now instead of 2 of them. And so like 2 of them behind you, Signy, like reach up and just like drag you down into the water with their claws. And on the inside of the barrier, the same thing happens. So there's this like compounded reflection thing. So let me just let you know what consequence you're going to be taking on to resist on Prophet's behalf, Strash, because it's going to be, I mean, we're just going to say it's level 4 harm, torn to shreds, for starters. And then do I also start a clock? I think maybe just it's also level 3 harm. It's just 2 different harms. There's the one where they tear you apart, and then there's the crushing weight of your failure, which will be level 3 harm.
Right.
Where it's like you did your big thing and then just like nothing happens.
Right.
There's like a well of power that you go to draw on that maybe in the like the ancient before time when you were the cool like hero of the people.
When I was the Reina.
And it's not there anymore. This like ancient well of power that you expected to, you know, like this is finally the emergency where you're like, okay, I got to do it. And there's just this void. There's just nothing there. And so there is a emptiness in you. knowing
Awesome. So level 3 and level 4 harm. Digging it.
Desperate rolls are serious matter.
Absolutely. We have, however, one of our things is heavy gear. When transcendent, which we are, your rolls fully negate harm of level 3 or level 3 or lower. Never mind.
Yep. So one of those you can totally get rid of. The torn to shreds is going to matter.
Got it.
Yeah, if you want the one that saves you from level 4 harm, that's the one where you eject. Which you didn't take, because I think you said that you were never going to take level 4 harm. And Strash was like, we will never eject or give up or surrender.
Yeah, I don't think it was that we were going to take level 4 harm. It was that we were never giving up.
We're hopeful somehow.
Strash, are you... Yeah, thanks, Luke. I know. On a 55. You've been on a single 2-6. Right. And I rolled 3. And yet I still
1,
got
2,
a
and a
3.
3.
I got all the numbers.
I think what this can look like for Reyna is that in that moment where there are two magicians, 2 prophets, there's one that's inside the barrier, and you can save that one, and that will be the one that like remains once the time magic resolves.
Oh goodness.
So yeah, you are able to like reach her. It's not like she's on the other side of the barrier and lost forever.
Awesome. So we're having a was it the prestige moment where I choose which of the 2 prophets survives?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Right. The
awesome. Yeah. I kind of love the idea that like
one of your time clones dies.
Yeah, one of my time clones dies.
It's not so funny when it happens to you.
I'm
something in common.
So I think that that's definitely a thing that I'm doing, right? Like I am the guardian, I will defend. I'm going to try and stop is that the level 3 harm that I'm hearing?
I think you're trying to stop level 4 harm.
Am I?
Because level 4 harm is torn to shreds. Level 3 harm is crushed with your failure. I mean,
level 3 harm is more of an emotional thing. It's like an internal thing. If you want, you can save her from both. You got to resist both, and how you resist her like crushing sense of emptiness at this power that once was and is gone. That's going to involve some words and some different stuff, but
yeah.
So, and you'll resist them with 2 different resists. So
yeah,
the torn to shreds is going to be.
But they're both up for for grabs. So which one? Yeah, I mean we can.
It's fine. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to. I'm gonna start with saving your life first.
Great choice. I like that. Thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to posit that I could die and that would be just fine because of what's going on time-wise, but I know that's not really true.
I think it's totally fine. I think I'm gonna. I think this is a pretty straightforward brash roll, right? Like,
yeah, this is just
being torn to shreds, and I think, I think I'm just. I had given the plan. I see the plan going to shreds. I put my hands on the console of my mech and still transcended. I say, I just project at it. I'm like, now together, and it's one of those classic moments in sort of the genre where you just get that like everyone's yelling at the same time. Like the mech is roaring, I'm roaring. I'm sure the Ghost Desire is roaring. It'll be fine.
There's the split screen of you yelling and then the engine itself roaring as it charges across the space.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm just gonna roll this, and I might go into Eclipse, so bear with me. Weird. When I click on it, it says that I can roll risky, but I mean this is just a resist.
Yeah, just ignore the position.
And I get +1d because I am watchful.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone can do what Reyna is doing, but Reyna is better at it.
It costs me nothing.
Nice.
Woohoo! Nice. Yeah, 2 1s and a 6. So that extra tie was very helpful.
So what
does that look like?
I think it's just a moment where the hands go up, and I think I'm charging in, and as I do, like I land the first grab on the hands that are coming out of the water to like shred Prophet apart, right? And like I grab the first arm of my mech on it, and then I relinquish control to the mech, and all of a sudden I'm on the other side, right? Like attacking sort of like with surprise, because I know that they're connected, right? And like that was something that Ipsos told us. And so I actually allow it to navigate space-time because it can do that better than my human mind can.
Yeah, you're
But
like trusting the engine to do it.
yeah, like we're splitting responsibilities. Like I'm letting it handle the externals, and I'm handling like a lot of the like grabs and controls and the like, like absorbing hits into like multiple arms and like burning away some of the things that are coming in as
Cool.
attacks.
So it's on like legs and looking around, and you're just like manipulating the arms and
Yep.
punches. Cool. Awesome.
So I think if this was like the show, right, like you would definitely see like me close my eyes in blackness, and then you'll see like an image of me like flexing an arm, but like one of its like both of its limbs move. So you can definitely see like what I'm imagining as my body motion sort of being reflected into an external world where I allow it to interpret whatever it needs.
Cool.
So so that's what I'm doing. But I assume I'm going to take a buttload of harm.
Yeah, I mean, you can bump that down to level 3.
Cool. And then
you have to interpose yourself bodily between these, like they're like multiples of them, and it's really confusing. And so you go to like stop one, and it ceases to exist, and the real one is behind you, and that whole fun thing.
Chariot's got this handled.
Yeah, level 3 harm cut to ribbon.
Cool. Do we have other forms of negation like armor?
Yeah, you'll have 1 armor use because you're transcended.
Cool. I will click it.
Great. So that can drop it
to 2.
Yeah, down to 2.
And I'm just wounded?
Yeah, so feel free to characterize that how you like. But I think it's not even like the chariot is the one fighting and like taking the harm, as it were, but like you feel it. And I think when you like come out of this later, having piloted the thing, you'll have like scars on your arms and like cuts and bruises that reflect what happened to the chariot. And it's tough enough that it's like, it's fine. It doesn't like harm it, but your tiny frail human body is just like,
it's not the first time.
Right. And to remind me, the engines have their own harm track as well.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. They have 3 strength. And once their strength gets depleted, there are a bunch of things that can trigger strength depletion. I will just double check that none of them happened. So yeah, it's if you use up your last transcendent action while piloting them, if a consequence affects it, if you fall into eclipse, your engine loses 1 strength, or if you suffer level 4 harm while piloting it, or if it gets abandoned. So there are a bunch of ways that it might happen.
Got it.
So I would like to resist the second type of harm here. And the way that I'll do that is I think it's a little bit of tough love. But I think I'm yelling at Prophet, right? And I think I do not understand the full depth of your despair. But I think that what I'm like, at first I start with just like, Prophet, get your shit together, right? Like stop navel gazing and do what you're supposed to kind of stuff.
Right.
But as I realize that it's like perhaps a little deeper, I'm gonna like, and I'm seeing you doing some like really wild time manipulating stuff. And I think that there's just like a moment where I realize this is probably less related to the current moment and like the exact thing, and probably more related to the sort of supernatural element. And I basically try and reach out to you. I don't know exactly what's wrong, but what I tell you is that like, together we can overcome this, and all the rest of us have to do this without knowing the future or the past or anything else. And we're somehow managing to hold them off. So if we can do it, you better do it.
Right, so and this is like as you're pulling the magician like out of this horrible mess.
Right. I like to think that the magician's cloak, which was like like an energy field anyway, but it's like all shredded and torn apart by this thing, and like the magician's like arms are like hanging like limp from from this
all 6 arms hanging.
As you're like pulling them, as you're pulling Prophet out, and I think that's perfect, because it's to me the thing that resonates the most of what you said to Prophet, certainly like the pull your stuff together, like that's, I think her dread is like on her dread is on like a huge time span level of like, this is the future of everything and everything that's ever mattered kind of feeling. Like it's not just I feel bad about myself right now. To her it's this epic expanse, but it's like we all need to be here and look at what we're doing. We don't, and when you say we don't know the future or the past, that's, I think, really what like calls for like, she has to be there. So thank you, that's great. I will gladly accept your protection from that harm. That level 3.
I feel like I should roll more here.
Yeah, this, and that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, this one is about despair and heartbreak, specifically despair. Yeah.
So again, it's risky. It's standard, or it's not risky standard because it's a resistance roll, but you'll see it on the screen here.
Snap through it, yeah.
But here we go.
You have a bonus die still, right?
5. I get to 8, and I do not fall to Eclipse.
Oh my
I
goodness.
am the defender.
And I think now, because of heavy gear, we also have heavy emotional gear.
So Strosh spent Reyna's armor use though, so Reyna is like doesn't have that anymore. It's no longer, because it's only as long as your armor remains unspent that you get that bonus. Essentially, my like vague floaty idea of it is like, it's like you have all this big armor and stuff, so like small stuff just kind of bounces off of you because your shit is so.
If she had done it in the other order, though, she would have still had her armor because you don't have to spend it to use that. Is that correct?
That's true.
That is correct, but this is what happened. I don't know.
All right,
it's fine.
I don't want to get into.
I am super
round by round.
No.
So system mastery for next time
is what gets through. Although, is it appropriate for Reyna to like have taken this on? I don't know. I think Reyna can resist it on your behalf, but you still end up taking the reduced harm.
Yeah,
if that's fair. So it goes down to level 1, and some suitably, despairing emotional tag that you want to assign yourself. Profit. I'm happy to see. Because you were saying it was like the big kind of time spanning stuff is still kind of there, but this whole notion of like we're here in the now, like
right, and this
fighting, and that's what matters.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take it as
is this just like self-doubt, or what sticks with
dread of the future? I think it's dread about what's coming.
Existential dread.
Yeah, it's existential dread. Thank you.
Existential dread, level 1 harm.
Yeah, exactly.
But
every day
sounds appropriate. Yes,
every day, my life.
I need someone to help a friend recover at me so I can get rid of my existential dread.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So you've like pulled the magician up out of the water where they had been like brought down and like were being shredded by this cat thing.
Mauled.
The one outside the barrier, as it's like fading from this, reality, because it's from like split time, there is a version of Prophet that is like actually torn to pieces. Like we see one of the magician's arms like get flung up into the air as it like disappears.
Yeah.
So yeah, in some other timeline, you're dead.
Right.
And there's a little bit of that dread.
Yeah, exactly. I think she can't.
This.
And for Prophet, she pseudo exists in all these timelines. So there's a part of her that knows she's dead. Like she can't know that.
Yeah.
For everyone else, once this effect goes away, it's just kind of like, oh, that was a weird memory. But for Prophet, it stays pretty crystallized.
It feels more real. Great.
Fun
word to carry.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
amid all of this.
Yeah.
No.
So that didn't work.
So Ipsos, you just watched.
I watched some different time magic
Prophet,
that I don't understand.
Like mess up and like one version of her die, and then the other version get saved at the last moment by Reyna in the chariot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking? What's going on with you? Like we get this shot of like you in the cockpit with like the display showing you this weird collection of stuff, and like some readout is like struggling to parse it. It's like you have a bunch of meters that are in the red. And
right. I think the engines can totally handle this information, but the new tech that we have absolutely can't.
Exactly.
It's like, does not compute. This is wrong. This is.
There's some like
array,
a certain type of radiation that's just got like this huge waveform in it. That's like impossibly strong. There's all this like alarming information, and that's like what we see when the camera comes back to Ipsos. What do you do?
Gosh. So we still have one cat critter hanging out with us. We have Prophet half drowned.
Yeah, everyone's on the inside of the barrier now. There's still the one on the outside, like it has resumed like clawing at this invisible barrier and like ringing it like a drum or ringing it like a bell. Drums don't ring.
They do this time in this world.
And so like sparks are kicking off as its huge stone claws like descend onto this like invisible bubble and then like stop in air seemingly. Meanwhile, the one on the inside is like recollecting itself, having been like smashed aside by the chariot.
Great. I think what we have is this like, so we're looking at all these like newfangled readouts in the cockpit of the hangman over like Ipsos's shoulder. And when you look at Ipsos's face, her eyes are closed. Like she's not paying, like she's not looking.
Yeah.
That's not the way in which, and like furrowed brow, and like that tiny, like that frown that never seems to leave Abbott's face is sort of present here again, if less tense, at which point, Ipsos will open her eyes and in the cockpit, her silhouette's really indistinct and the whole space is filled up with fog, right? Like it's really like it's very difficult to see her.
Oh yeah, and like frost is forming on all the surfaces and
and there's bright points of light based on that frost, and her eyes are very bright. And she'll look up again and go, "Oh, wrong way. Push them together into the barrier." At which point, so one of the cat critters is currently Raina, or is that something? Are you grappling?
I think it's been like knocked aside and it like rolled into the water, kicked up this huge cloud of steam because it's the one that's like wrapped in flames.
Yeah.
It's like just now getting back on its feet and like poising to strike again.
Great.
And so it's near the kind of general clusterfuck of the barrier with the cat at it. And then, yeah, like the chariot hauling the magician up out of the water while it's like kind of limp and hanging and lifting itself.
So there's and this very like almost pantomimed like look as we haul the magician out of the water and then look at the critter. And I think Ipsos is just going to sort of like sigh and slump and try to find a way to, I guess, Ipsos doesn't actually want to go fight the thing directly and feels like that's the only thing that she gets to do right now. So more of this like crab steppy sidestepping, like tentative. And as it's trying to get to its feet, sort of like rush in there and like arms stiff, just like shove it towards the barrier, like nothing, but just like sneak up and like,
right, like it's not paying attention to you. It's got its eyes set on this like easy prey, and you're just gonna kind of blindside it and tackle it into the barrier.
That's the hope. It's gonna be real awkward and it's not gonna go real good, but we're gonna try. Yep.
I absolutely love that if this is like, I didn't want to be, I wanted others to be doing that. And like we're just can't right now. It's great.
Busy.
I think things with these mechs like don't happen. They can move super fast in certain moments, but in general, things like pulling out of the water and all like the steam coming off.
There's like the weight of them.
Yeah, they're not instantaneous. They're not like pew, except for when they sort of charge or when they do.
I feel like they can like coil. There's a wind-up car, like they can generate a bunch of power and be really springy, but only briefly.
Yeah.
That's lovely to imagine.
I like the idea that we're just not available to take action for a moment.
It's really great. Yeah, and so like I love the idea of this tempo of who's ready to do what when and who has to like recoil and bring it in and back and forth. So that is what Ipsos hesitatingly
setting about
on about. But
what action are you rolling here?
I don't know. I don't know if this is flow because trying to go with like it trying to get to its feet and it's redirected and sort of moving its momentum. I don't feel like it's like defy. I don't feel like it's directly.
You're not gonna follow through and push. You're just gonna like, you know, like swing its momentum into and have it carry itself into the barrier.
That's as near as I can imagine. Is it like of a, because it feels both feels very momentum oriented. It doesn't feel like analyze or what would the other things going on here? Like it's not like conceal doesn't feel sneaky or like I'm trying to hide.
No,
anything.
It would have to be like one of the more like active things, like
yeah.
But yeah, I think if this is about redirecting it rather than you just like smashing into it,
yeah,
I think flow can work.
Yeah, I like flow a lot. I mean, you've got all like the chains as well to help. I don't know if you want to employ them, but there can be, you know, them wrapping around it and kind of turning it and twisting it and, you know, getting it. I'm not sure if that's fits the idiom that you have in mind, but
that would be if Ipsos was planning ahead and felt real comfortable doing this.
Okay.
Right? Is it like there's certainly that might happen as it like if you roll out of it, like if this goes well, maybe we'll incorporate some of the things that we're good at. But in the meantime, I feel like it's very
kind of off the cuff, like unplanned, which is uncomfortable for your character. Yeah. So let's call it, I would want to say controlled because it's not paying attention to you. It's like totally fixated on these other characters. But I think probably it's got to be risky, especially if you're trying to do something a little more elegant here.
Sure.
There's a good chance that you get tangled up with it. And dragged along for the ride if you're redirecting it. So we'll say risky, but maybe great effect because again, it's not anticipating this. It's totally fixated on something else.
Well, and there's a degree to which, like, I mean, I know we're all sort of making this up as we're going along, but like, there's a degree to which I think Ipsos has possibly discovered the nature of them, like,
and
you
I think
observed, you hypothesized, you tested,
right, and now you're following through.
and now you're retesting under the hypothesis, right? Like this is the physical actions are absolutely not your jam, but the scientific method that you're applying is totally your idiom, right? So
delightful.
I feel like that should count for potency.
Great,
you know, like. Yeah,
and like that crit on understanding this whole framework of how these things are operating. So yeah, I think that's fair.
Lovely. It's deeply well understood.
Yeah. So risky, great.
Lovely.
You're rolling flow.
And is there anything else that I am on about? I could push myself because I'm still sitting pretty on that. We can go for a double, I guess. We got a lot of devil's bargains floating around, don't we? Unless there's anything someone's real excited about.
I mean, here's the dark bargain I can offer you. It's going to be most vulnerable when it's already on top of them, basically. Like there will be a point at which your friends are already going to get hurt by this, but it will be most vulnerable to you doing what you're doing.
If I like wait a beat? Is that sort of what I hear?
There's the like version of this where you preempt it hurting them and get a certain amount of quality out of it. Or there's the version where it's like already landed on one of them and like rolled and then pounces back into the fray and then you get it. So like one of them gets hurt or like their engines get damaged or something. In fact, I'm going to say these things are fixating on the magician. So I think, so the magician loses one strength and you get a bonus die. Can be my dark bargain that I would offer you. And then, it's that you have to dispassionately watch it hurt your friends and then do the thing.
That is so bad and so thing. Yeah. Like that is the correct, terrible choice. Yep. Great.
Where do I mark strength on?
So I've got a little clock under each engine.
Oh, okay.
Because normally it would be on the like crew sheet in the hangar. Right.
I love this. The awful moment. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Please continue with the.
Just so you're accepting the bargain. I just want to.
I am all in. And there's this awful moment where like Ipsos's uncertainty translates into like this very clear and like clear-eyed, considered pause as so it transitions from uncertainty into certainty and confidence in a really awful fashion.
Yeah, and strength represents it can represent many things, but in this case I think it's representing like injury to
like just direct physical damage to the hand.
If it's applicable, I'd kind of love the idea that like the magician finally gets up and Chariot has like pulled Prophet up and she's like standing, and then right as she turns, the thing just like claws her right
like from out of frame. It's just
just like this huge claw, just like I'd done to her mirror self. So like there's this like horrible scrape against the stone, gashing of
the like sound of because it's kind of fleshy now that you're piloting it.
That's true. I'm transcendent.
And so there's this huge gout of like I guess vibrantly blue blood that like spouts out of it. Some of its arms like go limp because it's like its clavicle has been broken or something. And so like some of the other arms like catch the arms. There's this whole weird like 6-armed cradling yourself thing as it recoils, and then your opening presents itself, and you like the
well timed
hangman is there.
And the Prophet of Torsion says that like when she goes and you go, she says well timed.
That's nice.
Now crystal clear because there's no barrier between us.
Right. Which is.
And before you roll the dice,
yes.
let's go to break. It can be a cliffhanger.
Right.
Yes, sounds good. All right, we will see you all shortly, assuming I can get the clock started. Yep. See you guys soon.